But She-Hulk episode 2, the parole hearing for Emil Blonsky, with special guest appearance by Wong as Wong.
Yep. Wong is Wong.
Benedict Wong as Wong. And this also very, very bizarre side story where one of Tatiana's, Jen's legal rivals gets frauded by a Asgardian half elf posing as Megan Thee Stallion. So what did you think of this episode that I hated?
I did not enjoy this episode. It felt very odd. And I've talked about things feeling forced before, but I don't even know if this was forced as much as it was just like, we actually don't know how. Okay. It felt like an episode where like literally no one knew how to write an episode of television. And they're just like, here's stuff. Okay. We've all watched Curb Your Enthusiasm. Okay. And that is where you have like a loose script and then everybody does their own improv.
Right.
This was like no loose script. They said, you show up, figure it out. And I honestly thought that's what the show felt like. And it's like, because it felt like there was 3 different plot lines in this show and none of them made any sense. And the CGI was also really bad. It felt like the CGI was awful in this episode.
Which we will get into that, I think.
Yeah. It didn't work for me. It didn't advance anything too. Like, okay, if a show's weird or like CGI is bad, if it advances a storyline to some degree, like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also just didn't like how she was in her car breaking the fourth wall and driving without looking at the road. It actually bugged me a lot. So yeah, this was a no for me, dog. Yeah, a no for me, dog. And it makes me sad because I think we both kind of thought maybe this was going to go upward, and this was to me like crashing the plane, Denzel style.
I'm of the mind that this was like, I sent you the tweet earlier in the week that Megan Thee Stallion would be making her MCU debut.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was like, this is it. This is where they've done it. This is where they've done it. This is where they have. Yes.
That's what I did. That was so. For those watching at home, the WVU player did not catch the ball, was intercepted, and ran back for a pick 6. So Pitt is winning with 2:58 left. This is all doesn't matter to you now because you'll know the outcome of this game one way or the other. But that's why Brent was freaking out. But yes, this is where they've done it in the MCU.
This is I think this is the point where they may have lost me. I just couldn't with this. As soon as the side story and, like she said, the A story meets the B story. As soon as the B story was this complete fucking nonsense, I was like, I'm done. I may not watch another episode of this show after that.
Even over
because fuck that, man. Like, seriously, fuck that shit.
I agree with that. As I call her Megan Thee Stallion.
Whatever. Who cares?
The reason why I call her that is like, I need more. Like, I feel like to go to the level, you have to give me hits before I get nothing. But that's beside the point. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's just like, I think it was just like it's literally the definition of throwing shit up on the wall and seeing what sticks, and like all the shit fell, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, and we both had like at least above middle like range expectations for this, like a 6 out of 10 expectation out of this, and this show's like falling flat on its face really hard.
The problem,
and like this one, this is the worst episode of the 3, and it's the worst with a bullet, like 7 bullets. It's not good.
The problem is that they allowed the actual interesting thing that was in the episode, which was his parole hearing. But then it's even, they even made that silly. Like they made his character silly. Yeah. Like go back and watch that movie. You know what I mean? Like this guy was a super soldier.
Right.
And he was out to kill the Hulk.
Right.
And he tried to fight the Hulk as just a guy.
Right.
Okay. And, pretty ballsy to do that sort of thing. Yeah. And then they make him a laughing stock in this show. Like he's got like these 7 soulmates from the prison pen pal thing. And he's, it's just, I think one of the biggest arguments that I always have made about why I do not like the Star Wars sequels is because they have that campy Marvel humor in them. And it's the campy Marvel humor is starting to get to be too much. It's too much.
Yep.
And when you take a serious character in a serious situation and you just like make it a parody of itself, it is a problem. And then to even underscore that with this whole Megan Thee Stallion side plot, it was just, why even make this? Like, I don't understand what purpose that this serves at this point. Like this was here's what this is. It's a vehicle for getting the Abomination out of prison so that he can eventually join the Thunderbolts. And then it's a vehicle for whatever Hulk's up to. And, we were talking about theories and stuff like that. And I have a theory as to what's going to be up with that, but I don't know what purpose this show serves at this point. It is no pun intended, or maybe pun highly intended, but this episode was an abomination.
Yeah, it was also like, not a long episode, and it felt really long. So there's definitely a problem with that. And the other thing I'll just say, and I think it was just finished, I don't know where they want to go with this now.
Well,
I think that's just like, I do kind of know, but like, I just don't think I don't think they know exactly what they're doing.
To counter your point about the length of the episode, when the episode ended, I was like, it's over?
What happened?
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened, right. But it still felt long because it took forever to get to nothing.
Yeah. I was super disappointed with this episode. And part of it too, maybe not to be fair, is I would have rather have been watching the game. And so that might have made me felt sour about it to begin with. But then the overall lack of quality of this episode did not help.
No, I agree. I think this was just a bad episode, and that's what happens sometimes in life.
Hopefully they improve. Yes. But there is something that I would like to get into. I wanted to take a look at this article that came via IGN, and this deals directly with She-Hulk and some of the things that you had talked about, the CGI. And one of those things was In this article, Pressure Crunch Blacklist fears the MCU's visual effects artists speak out. Again, that's via IGN. And they go on. I'm not going to read the whole article. You can check it out. It's front page over there. They subcontract to these effects studios, and
Right.
It seems like some of the bigger problems here are that they're rewriting the movies, reshooting the movies. They don't know what's going on in the third act of the movie as they're filming it, as they're shooting it. Marvel's very nitpicky. And there was one account of an artist being afraid that they would have to deliver a USB stick to a premiere in the UK day of. And that's what type of like pressure and crunch we're talking about. And the three visual effects artists went on anonymously. And I was looking for I was looking for a specific quote regarding She-Hulk, where the artist said, you know, there was a lot of backlash over how bad the CGI looked in the original trailer. And some of the artists interviewed for this piece said, well, they didn't have time. They didn't have time. So did you get an opportunity to read this over, and just like what were some of your
I didn't read it
thoughts?
over, but I have read Twitter replies to it, and then the threads, and like very short. Like I didn't read extensively that much, but it felt like you kind of want to take the side of like, oh, we didn't have time, but also it's like this is also your job, kind of thing. It was almost like making excuses for a thing that like
See, and I think
okay,
if you'd
so
have read the article,
this is okay.
see
So this
that
is my
that's
thing.
not.
This is the Twitterverse versus that. And my question is like, is that how the article came across? I didn't get to read the article, unfortunately. I literally watched this episode an hour and a half before we recorded, and I didn't want to like look into that too far. So I read just a quick bunch of Twitter things. So the Twitter stuff made it seem one way. Is that how it was presented, Brenton?
No, I mean, it was presented as basically Disney and Marvel are not exactly great entities to work with in this space, which is a problem because they are, you know, the biggest game in town for this type of art, and they're very nitpicky about things. And the biggest thing being is you can have, I think one of the examples, I'm skimming trying to find.
I'll just interject while you're skimming.
Sure.
Why don't they just hire people to just do this as their actual job? Because it is Marvel, it is Disney, and you know you're going to have this kind of thing.
This is just how these effects shops work. I think that's just how it works.
I think that's kind of just, to me, that's maybe a problem too, where like, if this is how you work, like, then you're going to go through problems. Like, that's just the way I look at it. I don't know the industry. I'm just saying, I feel like that's the problem there, is that if you don't have someone working full time, if you have people on contract, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get some shoddy work every once in a while. You know, like, that's just the way it works.
Here's the interjection of this that I found. For non-Marvel projects, our sources say a shot may need to be worked 15 to 30 times. In some cases, Marvel has apparently sent a single shot back for reworking up to 50 times at its worst. One Marvel VFX artist said that they have seen a shot with 144 different versions. And then this is one of these anonymous sources, quote, "You can get your stuff thrown away 50 times just because they are rewriting and re-recording voices and redoing the script and redoing stuff." So it's tiring in the sense where it feels like you get a lot of your work thrown in the trash often. So it could feel
Sure.
like what you're doing is kind of useless, or you can get lucky and be on that shot that just goes smoothly. And I think that that's part of the issue. And then another artist said they had to redo the third act of the movie just a month before the project had to be delivered. In this instance, 6-day working weeks with 10-hour days turned into 7-day working weeks with 12-hour days until the project was complete. And that's really like what we're talking about with crunch. You see that a lot in video games. You hear that a lot in video games with crunch. You know, we're trying to polish, we're getting the game, fixing bugs up until the day that it launches. But this is, quite frankly, I think unacceptable.
Yep.
For
100%.
a studio of this magnitude to make significant changes so late in the game and expect the people that they contract with to just be able to deliver on that. I don't know what the fix is, but I think between this and the whole snafu over Scarlett Johansson's contract, where she sued for, losses on Black Widow, and the scores of the shows and movies not doing that great, I definitely believe we're seeing some cracks in the foundation here of this, what appears from the outside to the casual observer to be a very well-oiled machine that maybe that's not necessarily the case.
I would say, and not that I won't take any time, this is where it's just like stop and breathe. That's what they need to do. And it's not going to happen. And we've said this every week now for a while. And it's just, that's the fix. You want to fix this problem? Stop and breathe. And they're just not going to do it. And that's I expect more of this kind of stuff now going forward, because they just want to pump content into our system. So,
well, and I think that it's also the consumer's responsibility to say, we don't want this.
Yep.
This is not the Marvel Kool-Aid that we bought. This is the Crystal Light that you're selling us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that you and I have talked and basically said that after She-Hulk and Wakanda Forever, we're going to go on kind of a hiatus from Marvel stuff that we're not going to review on a weekly basis, maybe a season review, what have you. But, we need a break because it's too much. It's just,
we need a break. We need a break because they also need to break.
Yeah.
And
it's just not,
that's the thing.
When you're getting something every other month, it loses its luster,
Right.
So
it was the thing about waiting for things, but it is what it is. But we'll move on, I believe. I think that's probably the appropriate place to go at this point, because with She-Hulk, it feels like that's just going to be the problem now.
Yeah, I agree.